All right. Welcome to another episode of Becoming a TechnoWizard. Basically, stealing from my podcast. I need to get back to that. But today, I'm going to do a little presentation. Gonna practice for my presentation tonight. Gonna My group is going to be doing our second ever meeting with our client, and we have to, show what we've done so far. And so I'm going to be recapping essentially all of our deliverables, and so I'm going to practice that. I have to do it in 15 to 20 minutes. So here we go. I think that's probably going to be the hardest part, really. Um, but without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and get on with it. There we go. Boom, bam. Screen shared. I'm going to go into presentation mode. Bing, bang. Bada boom, bada bing. All right. So I'm going to start the time and boom. And, oh, that's the wrong one. Stopwatch. Yeah, there we go. And welcome to the Sprint 1 check-in. Today, we're going to go over what we did for the last couple of weeks. So welcome back, and I hope you had a good time. So this week, we're going to go over what we've done, what we learned during this past sprint, as well as a workshop activity to go over some ideation techniques. And then we're going to recap, of course, and show you the next steps for the next sprint. So what we've done. Essentially, the first two sections of this sprint was the empathize and define portions of design thinking. Meaning, this is they allowed us to connect with the people, connect with our target audience, as well as really understand the problem. So we did a competitive analysis, which allowed us to really understand the market. We did exploratory research, which helped us with some background information. And finally, we did some user interviews, which of course helped us to really understand the people who we're going to be building this product for. So these are some of the key insights that we got from our user interviews. We have, of course, a ton of insights, and you can see that below. But the main kind of takeaways we want to bring right now is that for one, the community organizer side or the subject matter experts, they have a need for a range of resources that go beyond just funding. They don't want just money. They want to have maybe spaces to get into, maybe in-kind donations or anything like that. And so we want to address that. Our business representatives, we learned that a lot of them don't really know how the decision is made or why it's made to support certain causes. And so we want to make it easier for them to, make that decision, to influence that decision. And both groups were fairly frustrated about the current process of actually making connections. So if they wanted to connect with a community organizer or an initiative, or if the community organizer wanted to connect with business allies, it's a very difficult and situation. So that's something that we want to address as well. And finally, another thing that both groups shared was that they wanted to have more initiatives that were more specific and meaningful. They felt a lot of the initiatives are kind of taken over by the party lifestyle, and so a lot of them addressed these frustrations. Our next section is the problem statements. So these problem statements essentially allowed us to kind of redefine the project brief that you gave us in order for us to really understand the different nuances of the problem. So it doesn't really go far away from what you've done. Essentially validates your hypothesis of what you think the problem is. But we pulled out some key highlights from all of our interviews. So from the business perspective, they essentially wanted to show a genuine care they wanted to make clear that their companies they worked for really cared about, the LGBTQIA plus community. They wanted to make it easier to, share more than just money, because sometimes they didn't have those funds, or, they just weren't able to make those donations, but maybe they can offer other services. Another one is that they wanted to show more of the culture that they built. A lot of them have affinity groups or equity groups or some form of employee resource group, and they want to show more of that off. And finally, that they wanted to make clear that they were actively, doing better. They were building a culture of inclusivity and diversity, and just being a really LGBTQIA affirming business. So this is a quote pulled from, you might know Adon. He essentially was saying the thing about the parties I was saying before, and specifically that. Oops, I'm sorry. So this quote is basically him saying that he really felt included when companies really got involved with events, not just put a sticker on their on the sponsorship, even though that was nice. But for him, what really mattered was when he saw them go the extra mile to participate in these events. And now, the problem statement for our community organizers is that they wanted an easier way to connect with businesses. They wanted to get more resources and really make a impactful and really good events and initiatives that change the quality of life for the people that they were using. So that they were doing initiatives for. So again, these are all directly from our interviews, and it was extremely good learnings. Gonna change that up. All right. So yeah, they wanted to connect with the right people because the current process was very tiring, very inefficient. They wanted a wider range of resources, like I said before, and they also wanted to really make sure that they were making a difference in the community. And this is a quote from Devin, who said that um, essentially that they it will be easier if they didn't have to organize every single thing, with the events. That every single thing didn't have to be a struggle. They essentially wanted to, come up with the ideas to make those organizations and those initiatives happen, and have something or someone or some, you know, consortium make it make it happen to execute on it. And so from all of that research and that knowledge, we were able to come up with a list of design principles. And now design principles allow us to make decisions while we're designing, our solution. So when we're in the next stage and we're trying to figure out what features to go in and what to leave out and stuff like that, these are going to be the things that we go by to really determine how we should make this a delightful product. So the first one is exactly what I was saying before with all the networking and connection issues. We want to make sure that it's not a chore and it's not a hassle. Again, we want to make sure it's meaningful, that it's impactful, and we want to make sure that it's sustainable, meaning self-sustainable, something that is not a drain on the community. And we also want to make full use of the resources available at for both inside the community as well as for the LGBTQI affirming businesses. We have a few more as well. We want to make sure that it's not focused on just one uh, group within the LGBTQIA plus community. We want to make sure that uh, it's paying special attention to the underrepresented groups too, like trans people, non-binary people, people who are living with HIV, and this, that, and the other. Make sure that their needs are being met with this portal. And finally, and the second to last is that we want to make it easy to connect the business's mission statement with the community organizations, the community's causes. So a big problem that we saw in our interviews was that a lot of the companies, whether they be nonprofits or corporates or businesses or small businesses, large businesses or corporations, they were not able to. They often saw it as irrelevant. So, for instance, um, a food service, a social justice, food justice organization, who really want to make sure everybody's fed, they may not see the on the surface why they should support LGBTQIA causes, not seeing that it is exactly those people who are often, not getting the food that they need. And so we want to make it easier to connect these missions between these different organizations and initiatives. And finally, we want to make it more than just a rainbow sticker. A lot of them, they do enjoy that. They do enjoy seeing, these visual examples of, hey, I'm a LGBTQIA affirming business with a sticker certification. but a lot of them also really stress that they wanted to have genuine care. Like they wanted to see that these businesses are going above and beyond, or at least, participating in the community, not just doing a sponsorship real quick or getting a sticker just to, show that they're donating. So that's extremely important aspect to us. And this is once again another quote from Sage this time, who they said essentially exactly what we're saying here. This is oh gosh, I need to make sure I get this down. All right, so Sage is saying that businesses often, this is related to the mission statement one, that they don't get involved with the community enough. They don't really look at the LGBTQIA plus community as a important part of the community. They don't see those issues as very large, and so we want to make sure these design principles and this product makes the problem clear. Like we want to put it right there in front of them and show them how they can really make a difference. And so now we have our storyboards. So we created some storyboards to make it easy to visualize, the journey of a person who will be using this product. So it doesn't really go into the exact details of the solution. It just goes into how we might accomplish the goal, or what is the goal, and what it will feel like, for a person who's dealing with something and to use the product to solve that problem. All right. So in this storyboard, we start off with Jake, who's working at a tech company. Jake is living with HIV, so he is often kind of feared or worried about the stigma against people with HIV, and he also often feels lonely and depressed. So he went and found this group, this upcoming group that has small, intimate support groups, but they're a very new nonprofit, and he wants to support them. So he goes to his affinity group, or I'm sorry, his equity team manager, who they regularly do. This is specifically the LGBTQIA plus equity team, and they're a very inclusive environment, but they're a tech company. They usually give the LGBTQIA plus community some stuff like coding classes and access to technology. So they're not really seeing how this is relevant to them. So the manager gives them a bone. He says, or she says, just give me some data. Show me why it's important, and stuff like that. Make it easy for them to make a solution. Another aspect of this also is that since a nonprofit is so new, they don't they don't have 501(c)(3) certification, so that can be a problem as well. So Jake goes on the Quell portal, and he actually finds a couple things that their need is actually pretty simple. That they need space. They need space to do these meetings, to bring these groups together. They're not really asking for money. And then another problem, or another aspect that the Quell portal shows them, is the impact. So this can impact like 10,000 people in Austin. People who will no longer, feel depressed and lonely, and thus they'll feel more productive. They'll feel more included and more loyal. And so he shows all of this to his manager, who then says, "Oh, this is actually a pretty easy decision. We don't have to, go through the whole rigmarole of funding. So it just, gives him some free room. We have plenty of space available." So happily, he invites the Agape group, the nonprofit, to do some of their meetings there. And so Jake finally feels more included. He feels very happy. He feels as he has a connection with people, and is super loyal to the company. And it has a lot of ripple effects, a lot of ramifications beyond there, and that now a huge section of the LGBTQI community is connected to this organization. They're very thankful for them. They have a lot of access to this company, and so that company is able to show the impact they've done for the community, and Quell makes it easy for that impact to be seen as well. And that is a storyboard. So yeah, any questions so far? Pause that. Ooh, boom, bam. That was 13 minutes. Not bad, not bad. I was worried it's gonna be a lot longer. I was spending a little bit too much time there, but we allotted like 15 to 20 minutes for this section. So I think it's gonna be quite all right. Let me see here. Where's my stop sharing button? Oh, here it is. So yeah, definitely, I got to work on some parts like those quotes. I literally just put them in like an hour ago or whatever. So I'm read back over those quotes and compose what I want to say about them. Important thing about presentations is that you don't really want to read what you have on the screen is redundant. They can read it themselves, and the whole point of it is to tell more information, than you're showing on the screen. So it does make it a little bit difficult because every time you practice it, you're kind of picking out a little bit different parts, and you want to make sure you cover like the key elements. Um, but that's what the presentation is for. The key elements. So you have those on the screen. The main thing for the quotes is just that because I don't want to read them, I'm trying to kind of paraphrase them to like give the intent of what the quote was saying. And because I haven't like spent enough time looking over the quotes and thinking about it, I kind of got stumbled up there. So something to practice a little bit. Have another hour or so before the meeting. But yeah, I think that went well, and I hope you learned something too. Once again, so I'm gonna have to go ahead and say it, but I got a Patreon, y'all. I had a Patreon for a long time, actually, for like since like 2016, but I never published it. Like, I mean, I never like publicized it. It was out there, but I didn't really tell too many people. Um, so yeah, if you're watching this video, check out my Patreon. It's a lot. Like, I didn't make the Patreon to support like my YouTube channel or something like that. I made it like to support my life because I want to. For people who don't know, who hasn't seen the first episode, I want to have this whole path of a trillionaire, ambition, and it's quite the thing. So on that Patreon, it has like a very long, um, exposition, I guess you can say, of me explaining all of that stuff, and also have there linked several of my articles, podcasts, my book that you can access all for free to get a better understanding of who I am, what I want to do, and why I have a Patreon. So if you're interested, check it out. At the very least, I think it'll be an interesting read. Um, but yeah, otherwise, subscribe, like, comment, share, like a YouTuber. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed yourself. Have a good day. Bye bye.